Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. It is going to be a good day. It is practically balmy outside for us. The snow is melting, and I get to look out at all your beautiful faces. I'm the Reverend Sherry Kwan, and I'm one of the ministers that serves this congregation. You might have been expecting Reverend A.J. Van Tyne today, our other minister here, and Reverend A.J. is sick today, which leaves me, So we wish him well. We trust he'll be back next week, and I will do my best to preach about power and gender. I think it'll be okay. So I thank him for the topic, and I'm interested to know what he had to say about it, so we might have to invite him to preach the sermon he was going to preach, because who knows, I don't know that he was expecting what I'm going to preach, but we'll see. Leading worship today with Rain and Orange Sky, our house band here, who were thrilled to get back into their normal rhythm of occasionally having someone else do something in between their songs, unlike last week's kickoff party where they played like a full hour-and-a-half set with no breaks. We've got our AV booth and all of you. It wouldn't be Sunday morning without you, and it is so good to be together. We are a people with a purpose. We're not a building. We're not an hour on Sunday morning. We use those things, and they're important to us. But through spiritual connection in community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves. We open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. And we do this every day, from Sunday to Sunday. If you're new or newish here, I invite you to stop by the welcome desk and connect. And if you came here today because you're worried about yourself or someone else, you're carrying something heavy on your heart, I invite you to check in with our pastoral care team. Ray's standing in the back with a cream and rainbow stole, and we would love to connect with you, whether it's online throughout the week or by phone or here in person. I invite you to stick around after the service for a bunch of exciting connections. I'm going to tell you all about that at the end of our worship. But for now, let's settle in and take a nice, comfortable breath. We gather on the contemporary and ancestral land of the Haudenosaunee people, the Seneca specifically, the keepers of the Western Door. And I'm going to invite Cindy forward to light our chalice physically. And if you're joining us online, I invite you to light a chalice wherever you are. As for the rest of us, let's join in our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
There was a My name is Rain, even, wow. I use Faye and fair pronouns. And when I was 13, I was gifted a palette of eyeshadow, some eyeliner, and mascara, and I immediately started doing my makeup terribly. As much as I want to tell you all that I was naturally gifted at this, I had a lot of help in the beginning. So the first person that ever taught me anything was my best friend, Jacob, which, if it surprises you, it surprised me too, because he was a boy. What could he possibly know? But I was desperate because I looked like a raccoon most days. So Jacob taught me about color cohesion and how to make my eyes look nice with the colors that I chose and how to do my eyeliner without it just being everywhere. And later on in life, when I was questioning my gender, and I thought, I have to be a girl, girls like makeup, I thought of him and how much he liked wearing makeup. And isn't that why we come to church? Because we believe in challenging gender norms and self-expression.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Vanolis. I'm our office manager. You saw me earlier this morning with the band, and I'm here to help tell the story of all ages this morning. This morning, I would like to share the story with you of Julian, who is a mermaid. It's a story written by Jessica Love. Julian is a delightful, imaginative little boy who likes to go swimming with his grandma, his Nana. And so together they go to the community pool and they swim, and then they get on the subway and they begin their ride home. Well, they live in a part of New York City not too far from Coney Island, which is known for its mermaid parade. And as they're sitting on the subway, they see women in beautiful fabric wrapped around their bodies, and glitter and sequins and big hair and jewelry. And he looks to his Nana and he says, "Wow, I am also a mermaid." He gets so distracted and delighted by those beautiful mermaids that he almost misses the stop home. His Nana turns to him and says, "Let's go." And they make their way to their home. As they're walking and they get to their front door, he turns to her and goes, "Nana, did you see those mermaids?" She goes, "Yes, I saw them. I am also a mermaid," he says. And they go inside and she says, "Well, don't get into trouble. I'm going to take a bath after all of that swimming in the pool." Well, he gets to thinking, and he's looking around at Nana's apartment, and he's like, I think I could turn into a mermaid. So he first stops at Nana's flowers, and he takes bits of the fern and he puts them on his head, and then he takes some of her flowers and he puts it on his head. We'll see if that'll stay on top of my puff there. And then he looks around and he goes up to her dresser and he gets a lipstick. He opens it up and puts some of that on. Smiles at himself in the mirror. And now he's thinking about it and he goes, "Well, if I'm a mermaid, I need a tail, of course." So he climbs up onto one of the dining chairs. He pulls down the curtain. He takes it and wraps it around his waist. If it'll let me today. I am not a mermaid. Well, as you can imagine, Julian is prancing around his apartment with his beautiful tail. And he's walking, and then Nana comes back. And she looks at him, and for a moment, his heart stops. I've been caught. But she goes back into her bedroom, and she comes out with a lovely string of pearls and says, "Here you go. These are for you." Then she takes his hand, and they walk a couple blocks to Coney Island to join the mermaids. May this story unfold in your hearts until we are together again.
Please join me in a moment of silence and meditation and prayer. Powers that surround us and flow through us, beloved universe that holds us and everything that we hold dear. In these times of struggle, when power is abundant and yet abused in order to steal our loved ones, neighbors, and voices of peace, these times of strife between communities, friends, family, and all the in-between, we ask for patience to change, patience to grow and learn and make tomorrow better, patience to listen when our first instinct is to fight against what is said, patience to accept when we are wrong and when others find out they were too. We look for strength to face the overwhelming loud voices that wish to silence all proof of empathy and fellowship. A strength to keep going, to keep being loud enough to be heard under this imposed anger. Strength to carry forward despite it all and find the still beating heart of joy in all of this. We ask for guidance as we look inward to find the pathway to a better version of ourselves, as we fight things larger than others can see in the recesses of our minds. Guidance for accepting the parts of ourselves that may be difficult to face right now, but will turn us into exactly what we need to be. Wanting protection for us and our community as we face the horrors. Those in power deal out protection for our trans, non-binary, gender fluid, and gender non-conforming siblings as they face the onslaught of violence and attempted erasure of their existence. Protection for our immigrant and non-white beloveds as they face the continued brutality of this country that was supposed to offer better. Dearest ones, keepers of love and light, creators of joy and movement, we look to you for all of this. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it at the altar of community and spirit, honoring the complexities of life. Bring to mind whatever grief, growth, or gratitude is alive within you. Online, you are invited to share in the chat, and here in the sanctuary, you are invited forward to light a candle. There is a basket of electric candles in the back if you prefer to use those. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please raise your hand. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. Ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by the larger love that holds us all, always. Amen.
Sometimes your life feels like a broken roller coaster, 1,000 useless different parts. Sometimes you spend your nights too scared of getting closer, hiding out in the backseat of your car. You tell yourself it's raining, the clouds are in your head. You tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, before you lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up. Mondays aren't always bright. Some days you lose the fight. But life can be beautiful if you let it be. Tomorrow keeps haunting you with all kinds of mystery. It's a blank page for your poetry if you let it be. So don't tell yourself it's raining. The clouds are in your head. Don't tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, before you lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up. Sometimes your life feels like a broken roller coaster, 1,000 useless moving parts. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees, yeah. Look up. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Look up. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up.
I'd like to invite forward Glenn Cook to share a testimony of what it's been like to participate in our capital campaign.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Glenn Cook, as Sherry said, and Nancy and I are long-term members of First Unitarian, 53 years and counting. But my first experience with our church came several years before we even started to attend. You see, my best friend from high school asked me to be his best man at his wedding, and after I agreed to serve in that capacity, I found out that his bride was a member of this church. The wedding was so different from every other wedding that I had ever been to. It was a small wedding with a few family members and friends. What made it special was that it was held in the Susan B. Anthony Lounge with a warm fire burning in the fireplace. The wedding vows seemed unique and original and not the usual recitation. But what did it for me was the bride selected music from the Broadway show West Side Story. a friend of hers saying, "There's a time for us." Needless to say, it left an impression upon me. Several years later, when we started a family, we thought about finding a church. Even though we had rejected traditional Christianity, I thought our kids could benefit from moral teachings of a religious education. Nancy, however, after spending week after week at home with our first child, craved some adult intellectual stimulation. You recognize that. She had read a little about Unitarianism, so we gave it a try. And we're still here after 53 years. Thinking back over those years, I have a flood of wonderful memories. There were musical and drama productions, singing in the choir, and of course the Byfriars. Nancy coordinated the gardeners and was chair of the Con Building Appreciation Committee. We have always been proud of our ministers and members who have spoken up about the fight for social justice. Over these many years, the church has always been here for us to support us in times of need and to provide spiritual inspiration. However, now is the time when the church needs us. The building is in need of some major repairs, and we need all of us to pitch in. We all know that caregivers need to take care of themselves. If we want to continue doing the missions of our church, we need to take care of our own infrastructure. So when members of our capital campaign call you, please welcome them into your home. They will explain what is needed to be done, and please consider a generous financial contribution and give an amount that makes you feel good. Thank you.
Everything that our church is and everything that we do is made possible by the time, talent, and treasure that we give to our shared mission. Members and friends support this congregation financially through recurring giving, and on Sundays we also give through our shared collection. As part of the spiritual practice of generosity, 50 cents of every dollar given now will go to the CLF Worthy Now Prison Ministry. This ministry works to overcome the isolation and dehumanization of our prison system. Using Church Center is the easiest way to give, but if you're not set up with the app yet, you can also give by texting GIVE and the amount you'd like to give to the number on the screens now. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
Hey, I hear the voice from the preacher in the back room, calling my name and I follow just to find you. I trace the faith to a broken down television and put on the weather. And I've trained myself to give up on the past, 'cause I'm frozen in time between hearses and caskets, lost control when I panicked at the acid test. I wanna get better. And while my friends were getting high, chasing girls down parkway lines, I was losing my mind because the love that I gave was wasted on a nice face. In a blaze of fear, I put a helmet on a helmet, counting seconds through the night and got carried away. Now I'm standing on the other bed, sitting in the cars, hey, I wanna get better. Didn't know I was lonely until I saw your face. I wanna get better, 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 better. I didn't know I was broken till I wanted to change. I wanna get better, 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 better. Up to my room and there's girls on the ceiling, Cut out the picture and I chased that feeling of an 18-year-old who didn't know what loss was. Now I'm a stranger, and I miss the days of the life still permanent. More than the years before I got carried away. Now I'm standing on the interstate, street never heavy. I wanna get high. I didn't know I was lonely till I saw your face. I wanna get better, 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 better. I wanna get high. I didn't know I was broken till I wanted to change. I wanna get better, 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 better. I wanna get sleeping in the back of a taxi, sitting at the bedroom window, even if it's gonna kill me. Woke up this morning really before my family. Missed a dream she was trying to show me how life could move from the darkness. She said to get better, so I put a mullet where I should have put a helmet, and I crashed my car cause I wanna get carried away. Now I'm sitting on the overpass, sleeping in my subway. I wanna get better. No, I was lonely till I saw your face. I wanna get better, 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 better. I wanna get I didn't know I was broken till I wanted to change. I wanna get better, 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 better.
This week, watching Attorney General Pam Bondi testify before Congress, and I see a lot of you already shaking your heads. I get it. It feels like children. We're talking about people elected to the highest halls of power talking over each other, bickering over whose turn it is to speak as they wrestle with the dignity and worth of human lives. And it feels like a microcosm of a lot that's happening right now. It's not about policy or really even power. It's just about voice. Who gets to speak? Who's believed? Who's told, either explicitly or subtly, to be quiet? Who has learned over time to silence themselves? Authoritarianism doesn't begin with dictators. It begins with a quiet rearranging of whose lives and whose voices matter. Sexism is one of the oldest training grounds for this. A few years ago, I shared with you research that I had learned while learning about what's happening to the young men of this country. The increasing radicalization into a wide variety of far-right ideologies. What's happening? And the research bears out that regardless of what ideology someone has been pulled into, anti-Islam, anti-Semitism, it almost always starts with misogyny. Someone online is asked, have you been humiliated when you wanted to ask someone out this week? Do you feel alone? Do you feel like women don't pay attention to you? This is the gateway for radical ideologies. And the way most of these recruitment pipelines work is they'll move someone through a number of different frameworks, testing different ideas, almost always starting with humiliation, embarrassment, and shame. And the women or young girls who owed you something else, I want to be clear, I don't believe that, but moving them then through anti-Islam, fear of foreigners, almost always anti-Judaism, because it's not actually the set of ideas that matters so much as your willingness to adopt them, right? This is how people join organizations like the Proud Boys, which has now morphed, as I told you a few weeks ago, into the mainstream, right? That the leader of the Proud Boys is now an ICE agent. The radical has moved into the mainstream, but has not lost its foundational idea of sexism. Authoritarianism and sexism are not separate problems, but intricately intertwined. Authoritarianism says that power should be concentrated. The authoritarian, the autocrat, the tyrant should be obeyed, not questioned. Sexism sets us up for this same dynamic in intimate spaces, in our own homes, our own churches, our own workplaces. Sexism says that some voices, especially women's voices, and certainly anyone who transgresses gender norms, those voices are less credible, they're less rational, they're less authoritative. We live in a time where politicians' unwillingness to meet one-on-one with women, or politicians' unwillingness to treat women with basic dignity, is not messiness. It's not a leak that nobody was supposed to hear about. It's testing for the ideas that allow sexism to morph into other ways of tyranny. So we live in a time where traditional gender roles are becoming stronger, not less. We live in a time where attacks against transgender people and transgender children in particular is the front line of tyranny. A year ago, after the inauguration, when from this pulpit and that of our sibling congregations, we preached around gender, and in particular, what transgender people have to teach us all about liberation, many of us gathered, wondered, what does this have to do with what we're about to face? And the answer is everything. When we put together sexism in all of its forms and authoritarianism, we get a culture where authority flows in one direction, where dissent is not possible, and where entire groups of people are trained to doubt their own knowing, our own voices. Gender control is one of the primary and most important moves of authoritarianism, because sexism teaches us how to accept authoritarianism in miniature, in our families, in our workplaces, in our culture, as I said before. And when we practice that, when we practice it in familiar, intimate spaces, when it shows up at scale, we already know what it feels like and can accept it. The writer Rebecca Solnit has spent years writing about this dynamic. In her work, Men Explain Things to Me, it's never happened to me. She describes what happens when someone assumes authority over you. And this happens not because they know more, because the culture, the wider culture, conspires to teach them, and possibly even you, by which I mean me, that this other person should be believed, is more credible. She writes, everything I need to know about authoritarianism I learned from feminism, or rather, from feminism's sharp eye when it comes to coercive control and male abusers. Sociologist and gender violence expert Evan Stark, in his book Coercive Control, defined this term as something that subsumes domestic violence into a larger pattern of isolation, intimidation, and control. The book's been so influential in the UK that the concept of coercive control is considered a crime. But this violence, it's wider spread. It happens in every country. And Stark writes that the primary harm that abusive men inflict is political, not physical. It reflects the deprivation of rights and resources that are critical to personhood and citizenship. It's a political act, a political crime. And it connects directly, Solnit continues, with what dictators and totalitarian regimes do to the people under their rule. living under authoritarianism essentially means living as a woman in most societies. I know. It's a matter of scale. Solnit concludes, the agenda at all scales is to conclude not just practical matters, but truth, history, who can speak, and what is allowed to be said. She's clear that it's not just about policy or about awkward conversations, it's power. It's about who's treated as a source of knowledge and who's treated as unreliable, even in their own life. We saw this when Attorney General Bondi, herself a woman, but as part of a power that refuses to respect the dignity of many, refused to look at the Epstein survivors at the testimony this week. Solnit writes about women being interrupted, dismissed, and not believed, and she tells us that this is not incidental, it's structural. When some voices are trusted and others are routinely doubted, we no longer live in a democracy of voices. We live in a hierarchy of credibility, and that's what authoritarianism is about reconfiguring what and who is credible. Silencing is the seed, but authoritarianism is the harvest. When people are taught not to speak, not to trust themselves, not to challenge authority, when women are taught this, when gender nonconforming people are taught this, when children are taught this, when ordinary people are taught this, we are halfway to authoritarianism. And this foundation happens way before any strongman arrives on the scene. But it's not the only way that human societies have organized power. We know of other models, even locally. Just a few hours from here, but in upstate, writ large, New York, in Fayetteville, New York, Matilda Jocelyn Gage, one of the most radical early advocates for women's rights, someone who worked alongside many of the voices that we know more readily at our fingertips. She lived at a time where women couldn't vote. They had limited identity when it came to the law and were expected to defer. She lived in white American society. She encountered something that challenged her very foundational worldview. She'd built relationships with the Onondaga Nation, part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the people of the Longhouse. And she saw there a world wildly different and yet real. She saw a functional society in which women held real authority, where women owned property, women shaped decisions, and women formed a clan of mothers who selected and removed unfit male leaders. Selected fit ones, removed unfit ones. So you have to imagine what that meant for a person who is used to living in a society where women could not lead, women could not participate in civil discourse, civic discourse, women could not vote. And then to witness a society right here in our backyard where women weren't asking for power, weren't demanding a seat at the table, but were already sitting there. This was a profound shift for her. A society existed where women's authority was real and respected, and therefore patriarchy was not inevitable. The lies that society told that talked about the differences between men and women and demanded then a society built on those assumed differences was not and is not inevitable. It's a choice, a system, a construction. Now, I want to be clear, the early suffragists were not, the early white suffragists, I should say, were not always in full solidarity with indigenous communities and indigenous women. There were moments of respect and moments of collaboration and moments of appropriation and moments of dismissal. It's a complicated partnership. But this example, this living system, still present, still shaped by the ongoing realities of colonization, isn't a metaphor. The truth remains that there is another possibility of organizing power. where leadership is not dominion, not domination over one another, but responsibility, where authority is relational, accountable, and distributed, where leaders are removed if they fail the people, and decisions are shaped through listening, through deliberation, through relationship, where silencing is not necessary, and force does not rule the day. And it's not perfect, but it reveals another option, that hierarchy is not the only way to have a functioning society. Solnit reminds us, brings us back to this idea that silence protects the power of those who hold it in small and concentrated ways. But the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and our witness broadly reminds us of something else, that voices can be honored and authority can be shared, and that listening, that very beginning of our mission here at First Unitarian, can be structured right into the system of governance itself, and that something else is possible when we hold power like this. So if silencing is the seed and authoritarianism is the harvest, listening to is another kind of seed, a seed of something else, of democracy, yes, but also another way of organizing our own being together. So I want us to take a moment, because I think all of this that I just said, many of you are probably sitting there thinking, yes, we know, we are literally the choir. But the seeds of silencing live in us all, and growing and watering and nourishing the seeds of listening is our holy task. So I want to ask each of you to think for a moment. Where have you learned to silence yourselves? Where have you been rewarded for being agreeable instead of honest? Where are you being called to speak? Even if your voice shakes because you doubt your own knowing, because someone with more confidence or authority or permission to speak is speaking first. Where are you being called to speak? And just as importantly, because our wider culture does not train us to do it, and because it is our mission here, where are you being called to listen? Where or how can you take seriously a voice that you have been trained, consciously or otherwise, to dismiss? I ask these questions and ask you to reflect individually, knowing they're big questions and some may require more thought, because our work here is to excavate the soul, to search within ourselves as individuals. But we also hold as a tenet of our Unitarian Universalism that our work is not isolating, that our individual souls are, in fact, deeply connected to one another, and our work is communal, collective. Our congregation works to resist authoritarianism by being a place that allows us to practice making space for dissent, honoring other people's lived experience, even if it's different than what we've been trained to respect or listen to. It's one that asks us to practice in any given room, around any given table, who speaks and who doesn't. We're a community that asks each other who's interrupted, who's deferred to, whose ideas matter, and whose are overlooked. We're a community that practices and chooses again and again and again to redistribute voice. It's one of the reasons I hope this sermon will repeat, that Reverend AJ will come back and share his perspective on it. Feminism is all of our works, and as Reverend AJ is fond of saying, well, I'm a straight white man, so that's probably my job. When Reverend AJ first came to Rochester, we went on a minister's retreat together. And I swear this wasn't intentional as a power move, but simply I wanted to show him the very best of what our local area had to offer, to introduce him to what we had to say, and ground him in this place of power and possibility. And so I took him to Ganondigan, and I showed him the displays on matriarchy, the clan of mothers and women's power. And then I took him to Seneca Falls. And it was at that point where I thought, this does seem to be a pattern. And we read a plaque together that talked about men's participation in the women's rights movement. It talked about men who made space for women, men who came to lend their voices to the support of women's suffrage. And Reverend AJ, hearkening back to a defense that's often made around the men who don't dismiss the voices of women, the men who understand consent fully, the men he hopes to be. When reading this plaque and reading about the heroics of men in the women's rights movement, he dryly remarked, well, not all men. Unfortunately, he was right. Not all men were willing to fight for the rights of women, but as many men as possible, the kind of man he hopes to be. Because though we are told in broader society and by politicians explicitly right now that hierarchy is natural, that some voices matter more than others, that power must be concentrated in order to be effective, we know that this is not the only story. It has never been. Not here, not anywhere. That there are other ways, and that there have always been other ways, and that we, as a congregation, as a community, and as individuals, understand our work to be the rehearsal, the practicing of deciding which of these stories we get to live into. Our spiritual, our communal, and our urgent and important work right now is to remember that silencing is the seed for the harvest of authoritarianism, but that this is not the only garden. When voices rise, when truth is spoken and believed, when power is shared and held accountable, something else can grow. Something more just, something more human, and something more free. Amen.
Hi, everybody. We'll blame Brendan.
That's right.
We're here. Ready?
Joy is over there in her incredible clothes. She has silver silk shimmering down to her toes. Was doing the best that I can, I suppose, but that little girl dancer eventually grows. She grows. You can't imagine all the times that I tried to uncover the source of the tears that you cry. Just throw it away and just go for a ride. You say okay, but you keep it inside. And I try, I try. We want you to be happy. Don't live inside the gloom. We want you to be happy. Come step outside your room. We want you to be happy. 'Cause this is your song too. I once thought I could have it so good. You were the song that my soul understood. But time is a river that flows through the woods, and it led us to places we both understood would be gone before too long. Would be gone before too long. When we were young, we thought life was a game, but then somebody leaves you, you're never the same. All of the places and people belong to the puzzle, but none of the pieces is gone. It's you, joy, it's you. It's you, it's you. We want you to be happy. Don't live inside the gloom. We want you to be happy. Come step outside your room. We want you to be happy. This is your song too. Time will weather this storm. Inside together, you'll see the change. When the sun shines through, we want you to be happy. Don't live inside the gloom. We want you to be happy. Step outside your room. We want you to be happy. 'Cause this is your song too. 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 This is your song too.
As our worship comes to a close and we spread out across this building into all sorts of different connection opportunities, I just want to name for our middle schoolers right now, they're apparently doing something called lots of knots and tying knots in different materials, which you might wonder what that has to do with this service. I too wonder, but I will say one of the most powerful and unexpected moments that I have had in recent years of understanding the harm that gender norms cause many of us was setting up tents during COVID for outdoor religious education with a group of people, and none of us knew how to tie knots. This feels fine and normal to me. I don't live a life where I would have learned to tie many knots, being neither a sailor nor a horse person. But for the men in this room, this felt shameful, as if men are supposed to know how to tie knots. I'm seeing some nods here. May feminism bring liberation and possibility. May we learn how to tie knots because that might be a good skill to have and not because that teaches you who you are. So there are lots of knots happening. There's a senior youth group, a flute circle, discussion and actions around how to protect trans kids right now. Kelly, who works in our nursery, it's her very last day, so there's a Goodbye Kelly celebration. The 40-plus friend-making group is meeting. The polyamory and ethical non-monogamy gathering is meeting. This is what democracy looks like is meeting. Newcomers are invited to a Q&A with Reverend AJ, but you got downgraded to me. It's a matter of opinion. And then the renovation team is offering an update on the decisions and progress around our building. Today is not the only day that will happen. If you heard something else you want to go to, it'll happen again in 2 weeks, so don't you worry. Lots of different options. I hope you will stay and connect in small groups. I hope you will build community. I hope you will rehearse and practice what it means to live together outside of autocracy. So I invite you to extinguish our chalice with me. And Rain, if you wouldn't mind extinguishing our flame as we join in unison words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We carry in our hearts a story of how we are meant to be, of who we are meant to be, of where we matter, and of where our voices are welcome. We carry in our hearts a story of who around us is worth our time, worth our credibility. May we expand this story. May we tell an ever more loving, ever bigger story so that all of us and all of everyone counts. Go in love, go in peace. I love you. Amen.